What is up, players? My name is JP, and I'm going to be your host for today. As always, I'm sitting here joined with Wilson, Cam, and O. And guys, I'm really excited about our episode today, and I'll tell you why. Because we're going to cover something that I believe can take just about anybody to the next level. It's not pretty, but that's the point. I'm talking about grit. Do you have it? If you're unsure about that, then trust me, you will be able to answer that question after we get done with this episode. So we're going to dive into what grit is and why it's necessary to win in the race that we call life. But first, I want to preface what this movement is all about. So we're dedicated to speaking our truth about what we believe a man should be, what characteristics he should embody, and quite frankly, where he's coming up short. For some of you, this podcast will be inspiring. For some of you, it would be a kick in the face. And for some of you, your panties are going to get so wadded up that you won't even hear a word that we say. But, you know, we're fine with all the above. And we're not going to apologize for anything that we believe. So if you're easily offended or if you're weak by nature, this podcast may not be for you. Although you may have the most to gain from listening to it. As for everyone else, we appreciate your support and really look forward to growing this movement that we've started. So now, to start this off, guys, you guys may ask, what is grit? So grit is actually defined as courage and resolve, and it's demonstrated through strength of character, and it's normally found through passion and perseverance. Okay, so characteristics of people that demonstrate grit are usually the courage, follow through, resilience, optimism, confidence, excellence rather than perfection. Cameron, I know you've said that before. We're more interested in excellence than we are perfection. So as far as when I say grit, what does that mean to you guys?
See, I thought grit was that white stuff in a steak, and you just couldn't chew through it.
That's gristle.
Gristle. Oh, yeah. Okay, learn something new.
I thought it was the stuff that built up on your tools over time and you got them dirty.
Grit, yes. Yeah. No, it's the stuff that's in the lava soap.
Mm.
Oh,
it's grit.
I thought it was the crap that was between your toes when you get off the beach. But
well,
so none of us are right. Is what you're saying.
We're all just having fun here. But
no,
yeah,
no,
grit,
you are. No, you are right.
We're just
all of you
messing
are actually correct. Those are all different forms of grit.
That is, however, the grit we're talking about.
The reason that they're called grit is because they grind down rough surfaces. But anyways, carry
they're
on.
tough as nails. Hey, grit is tough as nails. That's what I look at. When I think of grit into this context, is that you're tough. You've been through some stuff and you made it through the other side. You're not weak. You're not poor pitiful me on every single subject. You actually have been hit in the face or kicked in the teeth, and you made it through, and you survived, and you're still okay.
Yeah.
What's that saying? Like everybody's a good fighter until they get punched in the face.
Right.
Was it Tyson or somebody?
I think
said
Mike Tyson said that. Yeah.
It's not exactly.
Everybody's got a game plan until they get.
Everybody's
punched
got a
in the
game
face.
plan until they get punched in the face. And I know every coach in every sport uses that. Now it's true though. It's true, and I think that to me that's what I think about when I think of grit is when you take one on the nose. And then you turn around I can't believe you just effing hit me, dude. And you just take it to another level. It's a mentality, it's definitely a mentality. It's a strength mentality. It's a grit is grind, it's that whole hit me harder, hit me again. I'm going to get better every time it gets harder kind of thing.
It's how much you can take and still be sharp. How many, we'll just call it nose. How much rejection can you go through and still stay sharp? How many hits can you take and still be standing? It's grit, dude. That's solid.
It's being flexible and not broken.
Yeah.
Bending and not breaking.
Bending and not breaking. Yeah. So I agree with all that. I think grit is more so kind of like what we've talked about in becoming. Grit is more of a characteristic that you demonstrate on the way to becoming something that you want to be. Rather than something that you accomplish. Grit is something that you demonstrate through hard times. So grit's something when it's like I said, it's not pretty. Most of the time, when grit is involved, shit just got ugly. And as a man, you're not going to get away from that. Grit's something that you're gonna have to develop. And I believe, and you guys put your 2 cents in on this and stuff, but I believe that grit is not something that people necessarily have or they're born with. It's something that you can develop.
Oh, yeah.
And what's cool is we'll get into the podcast a little bit later on the podcast. I think it'll be really cool because as you've listened to these episodes, especially the one we talked about in the mindset, grit is directly correlated with the growth mindset. Directly correlated. And we'll get into that here in a little bit and stuff. But as far as developmental things, with grit, we'll talk about some of the different areas where you can develop grit, how you develop grit, and what's pertinent to that. So as far as you guys are concerned, since we've talked a little bit about grit, and I want to go back to some of the characteristics is courage, follow through. So it's more so doing something that you don't want to do, or grinding through stuff to meet a long-term goal. As far as you guys are concerned, give me an example of a time, just a story maybe in your life where you really had to grit things out. Like there was some, the grit and grind of like, this is about to be bad. Like you could almost see the mountain in front of you and you're like, man, I'm going to wear my nails off trying to get up this hill, but I'm going to get there.
I mean, I think we probably all have multiple examples of that throughout our life. You could go something as simple as sports. We've talked about that in past episodes, all of us in athletics. And I mean, I was talking about this with somebody last night about how much you used to hate two-a-days in August in Mississippi, when you played football. Like, that's brutal. I don't even think they let kids do that anymore, but it was one of those things where it's like you grit it out because the result on the back end. I think, I don't know how much we're going to get into that, but to me, the easiest way to grit your teeth and get through something is to know what the goal is on the back end, to know what the reward is, right? So whether it's sports, whether it's business, I know I've been in situations in business where it was not fun, it wasn't exciting, you weren't fired up about it, but you were doing things you didn't want to do necessarily, and you were getting better through them. But it was a grind, man. It was just a freaking grind. But you did it because you knew that the difference between you and the person that wasn't going to make it was the grit. Relationships, same kind of stuff. I was going to actually talk about this last episode because you were mentioning something that made me think of it. But I was 33 before I got married. Now, I mean, nowadays that's not like as uncommon. Back in the day, people got married in their 20s, early 20s, whatever. But like, there's even to me, there was even just a relentless grittiness to stay focused on not just, hey, she's nice, I'll marry her just because I've gotten older. But there was even a little bit of mental grit behind being patient, and making sure that you don't put a clock on that kind of stuff. So
I think grit is something you committed to doing, and then something goes wrong, but you do it anyway. And one of a true story for me is kind of shortly after Cam and I met through some entrepreneurial settings, I actually started another business with a guy in Chattanooga. And it was because he wasn't entrepreneurial enough to go do it on his own. So I was like, all right, hey, we'll be partners. We'll make this work. And we started a landscaping business, and I worked 7 days a week for 5 years. And I would come home from work and I would go out, either build our business that we were working with Cam, or go out and cut grass until it got dark and we couldn't see no more, and stayed committed to that because it was my word. And it came to a point to where our business was taking off. His business was going well with my partner, and I said, hey, it's time to split ways. He was only thinking about making like 150 to 250,000, and I wanted to make 400,000 or 500,000 by having a team and having other people, and he didn't want to let go of the work. And I was like, I'm not working like this for the rest of my life. It's just, I'd rather hire a team. We got to a point we can do that, and we just said bye. But through that entire process, went from a stellar job to hardly any income and just floating. And it was just like, you had to have some grit because you're committed to your wife that just got married to. You just committed to a business and business partner, another business on top of that, working 2 other jobs. I mean, we did everything in our power, in my power, to correct the decisions I made. And you're talking about grit. You're going to have to grit it out. And that was 5 solid years.
I'm trying to think of a solid time. I think, honestly, it was the first time I felt like a failure, I think, mentally. Really, it was physically. It was the first shoulder surgery I had, and I think I was only 25. And I was like, I can't do anything without pain. It sucked. That was so hard. I went through 2 of those.
That's a brutal surgery.
You know?
Yeah.
I was, God, did 2 labor room surgeries. I'm like, I can't do anything. Can't work. Can't do nothing. And it came down to where something had happened where something screwed up somewhere in the disability paperwork or workers' comp paperwork, and I didn't get paid for like several months. So my car defaulted, the house defaulted. I mean, everything was going like foreclosure, and people were trying to come take things back. And then the girl came back from vacation who was on my case, was like, oops, forgot to pay you. Yeah. The exact quote was, oh shit, I forgot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just wrecked my life. Thanks.
So, yeah, that was a stressful time. I mean,
shameless plug.
Yeah.
2 things you never mess with: a man's wife and a man's money.
Dude.
Amen.
2 things you never mess with.
No.
You feel,
ego?
and what do I do? You know, like I can't work. I can't even work anywhere. Because if I go try to do something on the side, which would hurt because I was fresh out of surgery, first couple months after, then I would get fired from that job because I'm on disability. I'm not supposed to be working. So it was like, man, I can't even go do something to try to save everything. You know, and at the time we were building a business and whatnot, but we were building traction for that still. So there wasn't a whole lot of result, not enough to save get a house out of foreclosure and stuff like that. But man, you're talking about some soul searching moments and some stress and going through some grit, and we figured it out, man. I mean, it came to a moment where I had to, and she's kind of gonna be embarrassed about this because I'm sharing it, publicly or whatever. I don't give a shit, dude. But whatever, it's in the past. Who gives a shit? So
she's committed.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. My life hasn't. Yeah, she's committed. She's in it for the long haul. But my bad. My life has not been perfect, and there has been things that happened, but the victory is we overcame those, and our house did not foreclose. We got out of foreclosure, and everything's good. But the grit there was, and then of course there were breakdown moments like, what am I gonna freaking do? And I was like, we got to figure it out. And I was like, all right, boom. So we laid everything down. I was like, here's what we owe. Here's what we can do. Here's what we're going to do, and I had to lower my pride. And for the first time ever, since I had ever moved out, I had to ask my parents for help. So it was a huge ego thing. So we went through that. I don't know if that's ego more than grit or whatever, but it was a hard time that wore me down enough to where I was able to lower my pride and my ego and ask for help. Because I don't do that for my parents. I just don't. That is something I take pride in because I wanted to be. So I want to be in a position where I can help them because of everything they did for me growing up. And that's. I don't think that's something that a lot of kids think about nowadays. It's more of, well, my parents would do this for me.
I met a lady today. Their 45-year-old son just moved back in with her 3 years ago, and he can't manage to wake up during the day. She said,
"Mom,
wow.
meatloaf,
Mom." I need a hot pocket.
Yeah, I know we're making light of that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So.
That's. I mean, like,
if that's you.
If you're 25, it's ridiculous. You're
45. Yeah. I mean, and that was what it was. And you know what? The cool thing was they helped me back. They helped me out, and I paid them back when I got paid. All the money. I mean, it was like, yeah, we're loaded because the check came in. It was like, sweet. I was like, oh wait, just kidding. We got to pay everything off. And but I was able to pay them back. Almost instantly. My mom took a little bit longer, I paid my dad immediately, but everything was made whole, and that was the thing too. And that's where the grit and the grind comes in, was, boy, I worked some overtime to pay that back ASAP. It wasn't something I was like, all right, I need to do this, and I'll pay you back $10 a week, Nah, man, every time I had some extra cash, it was bloof. I went out of town and worked storm restoration and everything to get that money as fast as possible and make it happen. And sometimes you got to step up to the plate. You got to do a little bit extra to be able to not only provide, but pay back, what you've borrowed and what you asked for. And you talked about debt last episode. I mean, that's, ooh, Lord, that'll create some grit and some grind on a man's soul alone, man, just having that stress and knowing, man, I've got to do extra to provide for that lifestyle that I was trying to live. That's.
And to add to that is also, as a man is wanting to be a provider for their wife, you have to tell them constantly, no, babe, we can't get that right now.
Dude, that's
that right there. Because that's the worst feeling to me, to even have to say that. Yeah. Those words, no, babe, I can't afford that right now.
Dude, I love shiny things. And I think the first time I felt shame in my relationship with Candy was was I went and bought something I probably shouldn't have, many things. And I was like, this is when I shouldn't have been buying those things.
Right.
And I was like, we can't, babe, because I did something.
I did a thing.
She's like, boy, that's stupid stuff. I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'll do it again.
Ask forgiveness.
It's the last time I promise.
Last time I promise. 2 years later, oh man, I just got some more stuff. Oh man.
No, but I think
that sucks, dude. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, humility and ego, I think, goes with it though, because sometimes grit requires you to do things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to check your ego to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I had a time period where I made some really dumb decisions. Left college, I was in college, left college. Decided I was just going to go make money and working in a factory 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'll never forget the guy that was my supervisor walked up to me and said, from this point on, we'll let you know when you're off on Saturday or Sunday. There was no, I'm being dead serious. There was no, hey, we're going to work, here or there. We'll let you know. So I worked 8 months straight without a day off.
Wow.
Until one of my buddies called me, and my buddy was like, hey man, like, it's your birthday. You doing something this weekend? I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a day off. It's my birthday. I can't believe that. He's like, dude, I haven't talked to you in 8 months, because that was all I did was work and go home. And the good part about that is I think every kid should work for a moving company or in a manufacturing facility on a line during the summertime before he goes to college. Because it'll change your mind on what you're going to use to make money.
Or run a chainsaw for your dad.
For your dad. But to compound that, at that point in time, I had decided that, hey, you're stupid. Like, you need to figure something out, because you're not going to do this for the rest of your life. For one, you're wasting your God-given ability. And I'm not saying anything about that. If working in a factory and doing what you're doing satisfies you, and that is you meeting your potential, then awesome. Do it to the best of your ability. For me, it was not. I had a bigger calling for my life. So I went back to school. So I was working night shift for 12 hours. I worked 6:30 in the evening to 6:30 in the morning. My classes started at 7:30, and I had classes for 7 hours, 5 days a week during the day. And then I'd come back and I would go to sleep for 3.5 hours and go back into work and do it again.
Good God.
That was 5 days a week. And like we were talking about with sleeping, like, you won't die. I know that for a fact. And then to compound on top of that, I was engaged. Obviously, whenever you work that kind of schedule and you're going to school and stuff like that, your relationship tends to take a back seat, whatever. The engagement ended up going, different directions, and found out that I was going to be a single father shortly after that, to compound on top of it.
Wow.
So there was a time period for me where I had to really put my head down and just go. And I think what I really learned about the grit side of things, and when you're grit and grind, is you either stop feeling sorry for yourself and go do what you need to do, or you curl up in a little ball and you move back into your parents' house.
Right. And defeat.
Yep. You got a couple choices there.
Yeah.
So for one, I was going to be the best father I could possibly be to my son that was on the way. And the other side of it, I knew that I had to do is I had to work to make the money, because I had a house at the time. I'd already purchased a house. I had a house. I had to work to pay for the house. And I had to go to school so that I didn't have to work like that for the rest of my life. So I knew the stuff that I was doing was necessities that had to be done. So I didn't really have a choice but to grind. But for me, that was a time in my life where I found out who I was. I was like, man, dude, if you can do that, like, you can grind in some other areas of your life. You can continue to go. And I think what was cool about that is it sucked. I mean, don't get me wrong. I got home and if I had 15 minutes, I was on my recliner trying to knock out a power nap for 15 minutes, kind of thing. Like, it was ridiculous.
Those 15-minute naps are like legit though.
Oh, it's
I
heavy.
can't do those. I can't. I won't. My brain won't stop long enough to let me go to sleep.
Oh, really?
And then if I do, and I have to wake right back up, I'm just pissy, and I'm not.
Yeah.
Dude,
I'm not.
I can go.
I'd rather just keep going.
At that point in time, though, anything
Right,
that I
right,
could
yeah.
get, just I could stand up and just. But to say that is I I went through it. I grinded. I don't know if that's the proper way to say that.
Ground
through it. I ground through it. But the grit that it took to accomplish that and to make it through made me a better person.
Mm-hmm.
It made me stronger, and it made my mental capacity better. I felt like I was mentally strong, but when you go through that kind of thing for that long, it really does. And then to compound that on top of it, 2007 hit and the recession came in, and then now I have a whole nother fear. So there was a time period where I made a couple bad decisions, and then it just compounded after that. But making it through that and coming out on the light the other side, like, dude, like, what am I truly capable of?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's you just said it earlier. Like, you're either going to curl up in a ball and move back to your mom's house, or you're gonna figure out a way to get through it. And we mentioned this last episode about how it's important to tell these stories. Thanks for sharing all that, because there's so many people listening to this that can relate to that. I'm sitting over here listening to it, relating to it. And I remember thinking to myself when I was going through a similar situation that I'm the only one, I'm the only one that's having to deal with this shit, And it's just not true. It's not true at all. And I'll tell a story similar just because I know for a fact there's somebody else out there right now that is grinding through something, and they're wondering, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? And I'm just telling you, there is if you keep grinding. There's not if you don't, right? I mean, like, if you're going through shit, keep going. That's the old saying, right? You don't want to get stuck in it. I got out of college, was in the restaurant business, took a job up in Memphis. That's a whole nother Bible study right there. Lord have mercy, man.
Like, just the images, like all the things that goes on.
It's like nightmares I still have about that place. But I basically opened a restaurant for somebody, and I was 80 hours a week, and it was just constant. And truthfully, at first it didn't feel like a grind, but eventually it did. When you're just always there, you're literally, you're closing down, you're sleeping on the bench, and you're waking up in the morning and let the kitchen staff back in. It's ridiculous. So in that time frame, I realized this sucks. I don't want to do it forever. So I started another business that I saw as my way out. Through that opportunity, I ended up moving across the state to Chattanooga. But I did that very much like I've done some other big decisions in my life. When I decided to not finish a certain degree, it was like one day I decided it and I did it. When I decided to leave the rut that I was in at the restaurant, I decided it, and I literally packed up a U-Haul and moved across the state the next day. Right? No job, no nothing. Just I knew I was supposed to go.
Jump all in.
When I decided to marry my wife, I decided in 3 months we were married from the time we met. And honestly, I haven't regretted any of those decisions. I believe when the Spirit moves you, you should listen to it. And it's not going to be easy. There's nothing easy about that, but it is what it is. So, but when I moved to Chattanooga, it was literally to your point, I was working at a health club selling gym memberships. I was and that was during the day. Before I'd go to work there, I'd go sell advertisements on these stupid sports posters, like for high schools and stuff like that, like the advertisements on the posters. And come to find out, the company didn't really have a relationship with schools. They were just selling the advertisements. They would actually print them, but the school had no record. They didn't know about it.
Oh, wow.
So I was selling that 100% commission. I was going to sell. Then I'd go to the gym and sell memberships. Then I'd leave there and go to this place that was called Hometown Marketing, and I'd get on the phone selling stuff for these calendars. Then I'd leave there and go try to build the business that I was starting. So that was 4 things every day that I was doing, and it was sleeping 3, 4, 5 hours a night maybe. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, because I actually needed to make money when I wasn't selling, I went and got a job at Olive Garden waiting tables because I knew the restaurant business on Friday nights, and I'd work doubles on Saturdays and Sundays. So 7 days a week, I was grinding because I had to freaking pay the bills, right? And I had a dream of what I was going to accomplish with my company, but I had to do the other stuff in the meantime. Now, luckily, at that point in my life, I was single, because that'd be a really stupid way to have a family, right? But I knew I wanted to have a family, so I had to go through all that stuff, right? But it was that whole, I'm not giving up. Like, I'm not going to let this beat me. I'm not going to die on this hill kind of thing,
right?
Yeah. And I remember literally driving from one job to the other job and going in the restaurant, changing clothes in the parking lot, and going in, and as soon as I'd walk in the door, they were like, we sat 3 tables for you. Because I came into a restaurant serving at a restaurant from a general manager position that had opened 4 restaurants. Like, when I came in, they were like, are you sure you want to do this? You're a little overqualified. I'm like, bro, I need to make some money.
Yep.
So put me on the floor. And they would seat me with 3 tables and boom, 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 boom. You'd work till 11 o'clock, close down, get up the next day, do it again. Then Monday, you're back at the other 3 jobs. And so the reason I say that is because when you were saying it, I'm sitting here being encouraged by it going, man, I wasn't the only dude. And the fact of the matter is it did make me better. Now, I didn't want to do it forever, but I'm thankful that I did it.
Well, you develop grit.
Yeah.
So you know the old saying that the wolf on top of the hill is not as hungry as the wolf climbing it. And it's one of those things. You develop grit through the struggle. You develop grit through the grind. You know, and your grind could be anything. I mean, there's 2 examples right there that are just a matter of working nonstop because you got into a situation that you just realized you didn't want to be in. So you had to figure it out. And the only way to figure it out is to grind, man. You got to develop some grit and you got to grind it out, you know? So I think that's really cool. I was excited about doing this because I think all of you guys truly understand what the grit and grind kind of relationship is and what it means to have it and stuff. So moving into that's a great segue into kind of the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about. How has grit and the development of grit really moved you to the next level? Like what do you think has really helped you out as far as moving you on to the next level from a grit perspective?
I don't want to be the only one talking here, but man, that hits me big time because I know for a fact, and O'Neal, I've heard you say things like this. I can hear it in your voice when you talk about it, but really everybody here, put me in any situation. After developing that grit and developing that mentality, put me in any situation, I will excel and I'll beat everybody else there. That's not an arrogant statement. That's not an egotistical thing. That is, I know what I'm made of and I know my capacity. And the scary thing is I really don't know my capacity because I still have more. Like you could still take it to another level, but going through all that crap and grinding it out 7 days a week, you're not invincible, but you feel like it, right? And you know you can win.
That's one of the biggest things, and my favorite way to answer the question in an interview is, why do you think you're qualified to do this job, or why do you think you'll be good at this job? And I just tell them, like, throw whatever you got at me and watch me respond.
Hit me again, man.
And watch me win. You know, I know I can. Just from what I've been through in my past, I know I can handle what you got because it's nowhere near as bad as what I've had to do in the past. Dude, I mean, it just comes down to, like you said, it is. You start thinking about it like, I haven't even touched my potential yet. You know, I've got so much more. Like my thing with 75 hard was I was scared of it. Like, and the biggest part was, okay, I can go to the gym. It's going to suck for a little while, but then it'll be great. You know, if your first couple weeks, really you hit second week of working out, you don't get sore, you enjoy seeing the results. It was a gallon of water. That's what I was most scared of in that whole process. And I started just every time I would stop in the car or something like that, I'd take another gulp or two. And I was like, man, if I just drink out of this when I'm eating meals, like I'm almost hitting a quarter a gallon and just drinking stuff when I eat.
But what if I drowned?
Yeah,
right. A gallon?
A whole gallon. Yeah, but it showed me how much more capacity I had to do stuff. I was waking up earlier, hitting 2 miles in the morning. Never thought that was gonna be a thing ever in my life. Waking up early, going to do 2 miles, then going to work, coming home, working out, finishing off the gallon, finish the 10 pages, still handling escalations for work stuff. And I was like, this really isn't that bad, you know? And that's what the capacity thing, like you said, I realized that Matt even touched it. I've got so much more in me. I'm
I think that
I'm gonna kill it now.
Those challenges that we talked about, I think it's something that, and we were joking about our kids mowing the lawn and stuff like that earlier. Like, man, that's where they start developing that stuff. Like that when you're failing at a high level, you know,
that's a great way to put that.
Or you're feeling like you are, anyways. Man, you're going to develop a way to not freaking fail, you know? And the sooner you can do that in life, I think the better, because then it becomes what it's really all about. It's mentality. It's all mentality. Like your body can take it, dude. Your body can take it. Or like you said, you'll fall asleep. It's just, can you mentally stay engaged when all that crap's coming at you? And then if you do, then it's going to be, again, as those roles, community leader, husband, father, all that kind of stuff. It's like, the reason I'm emotionally stable, like we talked about in the last episode, is because I had grit. I was trying to survive and not starve to death. There was times when I was going to bed at night hungry because I said I've got to go to bed because I don't have anything to eat. So the only way I'm not going to be hungry is if I go to sleep.
Right.
That's real life. Like that was on my knees praying, and I wish it wasn't the case. But then when I look back at it now, I'm like, that's why I can handle all this other shit that happens in other areas of my life, because I was going to bed literally starving.
Yeah.
You know,
And that will never replay out in your life. Or,
Never.
and if it ever gets to that
Never.
point, you can rebuild it again. And that's
that
what
shit
I
ain't
like.
happening again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about all the successful entrepreneurs and people who like Donald Trump or whoever you want to name. That's the first person I just thought of because he did rebuild his stuff, went through the bankruptcy, whatnot. And then there's other people that had nothing and then came to something and then lost it and then came it again. So I think the grit allows you to know that if you went through it once, you can do it again, and you have nothing to fear. It's kind of like one episode I mentioned about a friend of mine who got his butt kicked and handed to him, and he knew that if he went over there, the worst that will happen is that. And he's already been through it once and experienced it once, so it's like, all right, I got this. And then not on top of even all of those things added to it is that the biggest thing that I think you get away from it is your self-image. Like, I am the freaking man. You look at yourself in the mirror totally different when you know you're putting it all out there on the line because you have to. Now, if you don't have to, that's the challenge, is saying, oh, it's comfortable, so I don't have to do as much today.
It's a different challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also, man, is not letting your past define you in a negative light. There's other people that have gone through probably worse than what we have, with loss or whatever.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
But the thing is the way that we've all shared stories here today that suck, but it's how we haven't let them affect our lives negatively, right? And we talked about positive expectations, stuff like that. We know it's going to get better. We know it's not the end. We know we control the outcome. That's the big thing. But the grit, we didn't let the grit wear us down. We let it do the opposite, honestly. It sharpened us. If anything, it was our grit was a whetstone to our blade more so than us striking our sword over and over on the same rock and dulling ourselves down. We knew what we needed to do to fix it, and we rose to the challenge and did it. And that's the difference maker. Are you going to let your grit wear you down like the stone you're striking your blade on, or are you going to let it be the whetstone that you're using to rub against the blade to sharpen you and make you better prepared for it to never for you to never let that happen ever again in your entire life? Like Cameron said, no, I'm never going back there. That's never happened again. Yeah, because you know how to not let yourself get
I'll
there.
dance on a pole before I ever go back.
But it's all about to your point. That's a great example. It's about the direction that you apply the grit.
Yeah.
Are you blunt force hitting yourself in the head with the grit and just beating yourself down, or are you applying it to your situation to grind away the issues that you have in front of you?
Yep.
And I think that's awesome. And the cool thing about what you guys talked about is once you realize, and each of you touched on it, once you've developed grit and you understand that you have it, and you look in the mirror and you go, man, like I overcame that. And then you start to apply that to other aspects of your life. What is life without grit? Like you start to go, my God, what a boring life would I have if I didn't have grit, and I'm just, for me personally, like I've had situations, but I think I've developed a lot of grit from a physical perspective. I've utilized that on the daily to be something that I can be gritty about. So like the gym's taught me that pushing past my limits consistently will produce results that I never thought I could have.
That make you look like that in a shirt.
But it makes you stronger. And one thing that I think about the gym that I really enjoy is it's more of a mental game than it is a physical game. And you really find out who you are and stuff. And there's a lot of times, and I know one of my favorite terms that I love is one more. Yeah. One more. And I've always used that, and I've heard some other people
remember that term.
Say it as well. Yeah,
working out with you.
Yeah, like leg days with Josh.
One more, dude. One more. I'm gonna throw up.
He's Mr. One more.
That was the one.
Pretty sure my leg is bent in the opposite direction of what it's supposed to be right now.
Dude, my leg day with you, I literally fell to the floor. My knee just gave out.
I'll never forget. We're doing leg lunges on the way out. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No, we're done. No, we're not done. We're doing leg lunges to
all
the
way
water.
to the car.
And out. I'm like, what?
Oh no, I'm pretty sure I just saturated that trash can. I don't know if I need to do leg lunges.
Paint on that, bud. Right
yeah,
there.
But it's one of those things because the cool thing about it though is like you guys think that I don't feel that. But I feel the same way that you guys do, but I look at it differently. Yeah. Once you get used to that grit and that grind that it takes from a physical perspective, I just say that because a lot of people can relate to, oh man, I've done a workout before and I thought I was going to die, kind of thing. But for me, it's like, it hurts. One more. I'm tired. One more. I can't go anymore. One more, kind of thing. So what it's taught me is that work over talent will take you anywhere you want to go, and work requires grit. Like, and that's where I think people get hung up. They try to stay on their talent and stuff, and I've been guilty of that, and that's the only reason I say that. But when you learn to grit things out, you get better. I mean, it's just a fact of the matter. You develop mental toughness through grit and failure. You only overcome failure with grit, and it's not easy, but it's necessary. If you ever want to accomplish a long-term worthwhile goal, you're going to have to demonstrate grit at some point in your life, because instant success is rare. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's rare. You could win the lottery, but you know what's funny? The trash guy that went and won the lottery bought strippers and blow and had a great time, and then he went back to being a trash man.
Yep.
You know, and some of them are okay with that. They'd probably do it all over again.
Exactly. Like, that was an awesome week.
Yeah, that was great. They'd probably do it all over again. So now that we talked about how grit has helped you guys to the next level, y'all talk to me about how grit's related to mindset. I want to hear what you think that grit does for your mindset. How do you guys feel that those two things relate? And the reason I want to ask this is because we talked in a couple podcasts ago, and if you guys have not heard the Mindset podcast, go check it out. It's good. These other three really drop some knowledge on the mindset side of things. But where does, and I'm going to take shameless plug right before I hand it over to you guys. If you want to know about what true grit is and how it can change your mindset, you guys, if you haven't read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, that is probably the best example of what true grit looks like. That guy is ridiculous in a good way, and a lot of people will never touch what he's done or desire to touch what he's done, but it gives a great example of where grit can take you. Mm-hmm. But he goes into how it goes into the mindset side of things and stuff too. But I mean, as far as you guys are concerned, how has grit affected your mindset?
Well, it's like what O said on that podcast. Is like you have a built-in confidence. Once you've done so much, you kick a door in, it's like, "What's up? I'm here." You know, and that's true. It's so true to say you come into any environment and you got it. Nothing messes you up. Where a lot of people who haven't been challenged or haven't stretched their capacity, or like in the gym where your muscles start gaining extra, you got muscle memory or whatnot when you haven't gone and you come back or whatever, and you just got all these memories that are being built. If you don't flex those muscles from time to time, you're going to feel weak and you're going to feel and not adequate. But whenever you do and you're in the grind and you're moving forward and you're a sugar cookie like the SEALs, man, you go through Hell Week. Dude, you can face the world and be okay with it. Mm-hmm. And that's what grit really is to me, is like you put everything out there and you exposed yourself to what you can do. And then the cool thing is you heal. And then right after that, you go do it again and you stretch your capacity a little bit more, just like a rubber band. And that is true by far the best way to check your mental attitudes, just by just laying it all out there.
Well, it changes your perspective, right? Like like your capacity changing is a different way of saying your perspective has changed, because once you've had to grind something out, once you've had to demonstrate grit to get through something, you look at things differently. You look at yourself differently. You probably look at the world, that situation, the circumstances differently, all those kinds of things like we talked about the last episode, like things don't bother you that used to bother you. Maybe you see a bigger picture than what you used to see, whatever it is. And the picture that I get in my head, the visualization of that is, if you're grinding it out, crawling up a mountain, your perspective is all you can see is the top of that mountain. That's all you can see. In front of you is just mountain, and it's steep, and you're crawling up it. And I'm thinking about in Lone Survivor where he's talking about like how steep it was and how they could barely crawl up it, and every time they shot, they fell back and everything, and just incredibly steep. But if you really grind it out, if you have the grit to get to the top of that mountain, your perspective changes, because now you can see what's on the other side of that mountain, which could be an easy ride. It could be a coast. It could be a valley, or it could be another big mountain that you got to grind it out some more, right? But you
enjoy the view while you're there.
Enjoy the view while you're there. And honestly, turn around and look at what you just did.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a bad thing. I don't think you should pat yourself on the back necessarily, but you should give yourself some props every now and then and be like, you're a badass, you know? Now, let's go again. right? Like enjoy it for a second.
One more again.
Celebratory things should be very short term.
Exactly.
If you're still celebrating what you did 10 years ago, you're
It should be like what Saban said after one of the national championships. It's like we're going to enjoy it for a few hours and then we're going to get back to work.
Yeah. My coach always said we're gonna celebrate our wins in 24 hours and we're gonna mourn our losses in 24 hours.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, he wasn't saying like we're gonna take all day to do it, but he was saying this isn't long term. That was his message.
Right.
We're gonna celebrate our wins and we're gonna mourn our losses. That's it. Yeah. But the way we mourned our losses in practice, though. That's how we mourned.
Right.
We're still mourning about it anymore.
Yeah.
We're gonna be about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Today we're mourning our loss. Laps. Dang it, hills. Here we go. All right. Yeah, I mean it was. Yeah, but that's how it should be. You don't want to talk about in 2006, man, we won state, bro.
Like Al Bundy, had
bro, you're 31.
You got a beer belly. You're bald at that point in time.
Yeah. What championships have you won recently?
Yeah.
You don't have to play a sport to win a championship. You could set a lofty goal, and that could be your championship. I mean that's what it comes down to. Grit and mindset are directly correlated to one another. Where if you can maintain, everyone has in my field. It goes up, it goes down. It's hardly ever consistent. If it's consistent, you're working your ass off. And that's always, you can see who's doing that when people who are consistent, which is pretty cool to see who's out there getting it and winning and going through the grit and the grind. But what that is yeah. You couldn't see Josh the movie just did, but it was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
got some good moves.
It was a backflip, roundhouse.
Yeah, there you go. Roadhouse. But they directly correlate with one another because the grit is the trial, right? It's what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
How can you what mindset do you have going through your trial? For me, it was when that first 2 mile day was like my feet you could feel them like swelling because I'm not used to walking that much, right? And that, and I was maintaining a steady pace. I think it was like 4 miles an hour. I mean, I was good. I was like old lady power walking without the weights, I was smoking.
I could see you as an old lady power walking.
Were your hips working like they do in the Olympics?
Oh, yeah, I was getting it, bro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, you understand there's rules to speed walking.
Oh, there are.
You can't have both
That's
your feet
Olympic
off the ground at the same time. You can't have both feet off the ground at the same time. One has to be touching the ground at all times.
How do you? I don't understand.
You can't
flat.
Because
you mean like
no, one has to
running?
be touching. So if I'm walking and I'm gating and I go like this foot has to come down before I can pick this foot up.
Okay.
When you run, there's times where you're airborne.
Oh, yeah,
where your feet are not touching the ground, neither one of them.
Yeah,
so that's a jog or a run. But in order to constitute a fast walk, you can't have both feet up off the ground at the same time.
Right. No,
that's
ask
why you
me
got
why
to
I
work
know
the hips.
that. Ask me why I know that.
Were you corrected by another?
Because I did competitive uphill walking.
Shut up.
Just kidding. No.
I was about to say.
No, but when I
was like, that's a thing?
What? Oh my God.
Sport in it?
Why?
That and underwater basket weaving. It's $2,500 class in college.
I did intro to leisure in college. I'm like, how do you intro to isn't leisure just already intro? Like you begin leisurely.
This is how you relax, guys.
I actually didn't take that class, but that was a real class.
That's an intro to leisure.
Intro to leisure. Like, we just don't want to be too aggressive to just go ahead and be leisurely. We're just going to intro to leisure.
There's a prerequisite.
Yeah. I mean, is it dead? I mean, intro to leisure is like I'm not alive yet.
Welcome to Leisure 2, guys. It's basically just another class.
Wake up.
Intro. Yeah.
Right. The rabbit trails we get on.
We got three classes. We got advanced hatred for the white devil, advanced hatred for the white devil, volleyball.
Dodge, dip, duck, dive, and dodge.
That's great. So, like you said, grit is directly related to mindset. And the reason for that is like when we talked about fixed and growth mindset, like if a person has a fixed mindset, they believe that failure is a reflection of their ability and that will deter them from persisting after they fail, right? The whole point in grit is to persist. Like that's the biggest thing. Grit is a long-term goal. Normally it's something like if you want to take your bench up another 100 pounds and you want to go from 150 pounds to 250 pounds, you are going to have to grit and grind in the gym for the next year and a half or whatever it is to put that weight on the bar where you can do it. It's a long-term goal. If you get up underneath the bar and you have that strong fixed mindset and it drops down and it caves your bird chest in, then you're going to go, I can't do that. That's way too heavy. No way. Kind of thing. So the reason that grit really correlates with that is because, like I have failed many times and persisted throughout the failure, which has made me stronger and smarter and more resilient. So I can move on from that and I can win, and I will win. It might take me longer than it takes you, but I will win. If I go play Gears of War, you might beat me.
You won't get smoked.
You might beat me.
You're definitely going to beat me because I have no idea what that is.
You might beat me, but in 6 years, I'll be good enough to beat you. No, you would absolutely kick my ass.
But that's where it all goes back to, like I said, I'm not the best, but one day I'm going to be.
Sure.
And I think, but that statement doesn't imply all the shit I'm going to have to go through to be the best. It's
I'm
not
going to sit here and all of a sudden over time,
boom.
I'm going to be
Yep.
the best.
I'm going to take a lot of L's before I become the best. And again, I wish I had my notes because I actually wrote down how many shots and then everything that it goes through. It didn't go over. Everyone thinks Michael Jordan's the best, but they don't show how many shots he missed, how many championships he lost, how many games he lost. That he didn't make his high school basketball team or what it was. I mean, it doesn't talk about, or he's kicked off or whatever. It doesn't talk about all that. It just said he's the greatest basketball player of all time. Yeah. Well, what did he do to get there? Yeah. A lot of grit. A lot of grit.
Well, that's one of the benefits in what we do. Everybody looks at it and you're like, you grind out, you fail and stuff like that. And, oh, man, I'm going to look stupid or whatever it is. But, name who lost the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
I don't even know who won the Super
Patriots?
Bowl 2 years ago.
Yeah, but that's no. No, but it's one of those things like
50-50
and that's where that overnight success comes in, right? They don't see the grind that happened beforehand. But that goes back to what we talked about in mindset. You should be celebrating the grind like with your kids rather than the victory.
Praise the hard work.
Yeah, the victory's awesome. I think it's great that you win, but get them ice cream because the grind that they went through to get the win, not the win. Because then they're going to think if they don't win, it's not good.
Right.
What they need to think is if I don't work, it's not good.
Dude, a freaking men to that.
They need to fall in love with the work.
That's
like
huge.
they
Absolutely.
need to fall in
Yeah,
love with
the process.
The process of becoming, and because it's not easy, isn't it? Nothing's easy. Anything in success in life is not meant to be easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. You got to understand that you have a decision every single day to fall back and sit in that recliner, eat a couple more potato chips, add another 5-10 pounds to your life every single week, pretty much, or go and get up and go pick up a dumbbell, or go run a mile or two and let your bones crack a little bit and your muscles get a little sore, and then test yourself. I know when we did the 75 hard, I did it for 35 days. I thought I was going to die the first few days, and then we get to 35 and the water got me, the damn water. And I was like, shit, I couldn't drink it all.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Like,
it's always
or
not
like
taking a
it's
picture.
the water or taking a picture.
Oh, yeah. Picture almost got me a couple times too. It's like, you don't think about that. I'm
or the person that loves to work out fell out because I didn't work out. Really?
Seriously?
Really?
Like day one or day two or
and as much as I would love to blame that on an excuse that I got in late, I had time to get a 45-minute workout in at 11 o'clock at night. I should have done it, but I didn't. And the next day, that's when you kick yourself in the ass. The next day, you're sitting there going, why the hell didn't you just do it? Like, just do it, man.
You know why I didn't chug the water? Is literally my mother-in-law the day before said that people die from drinking water too fast.
And that's what you get for listening to your mother-in-law.
Yeah, no, that's like a legit. No, that's legit. Like, you could actually die if you drink too much water at once. And I was like, because I was doing that.
Or something like that. I can't
It's
remember.
called water intoxication.
Yeah.
But you're not.
I don't know how much
not
water.
not a half a gallon.
dude.
I got to the point where I was drinking 3 gallons a day when I was getting ready for that competition.
Yeah,
a day.
It's not a gallon.
You have to intentionally drink 3 gallons a day. Like, I mean, intentionally.
I have to intentionally drink a gallon.
Like, you have to constantly be drinking. But,
That's a conscious effort for me. I'm like,
gosh.
oh, shit, it's lunchtime. I'm not a half a gallon.
I feel like you just leave your pants open and just pee, like, constantly. Like, just,
Oh, dude. Yes.
Yeah. You just,
Put in a catheter.
catheter.
While
I ain't putting no catheter in. I've seen what that thing looks like.
talk
I
about
flat
grit.
up told my boss, was like, hey, if you see me stopping at a lot of gas stations, I just want you to know I'm up my water consumption.
Right.
It's not beer.
Yeah.
And I'm smoking about a pack an
I
hour.
don't think you want me to pee on the customer's yard.
Yeah, definitely not.
So, okay, all right, guys. So from a practical sense, because all of you have a certain level of grit about you, you guys have been through the grind. You're going through the grind. I don't want to say been through, because you guys are going through the grind, and you guys do it. You guys do it purposely.
Right.
Like, you guys are all at a level right now where you guys could all kick back and be like, you know what, my family's taken care of. I can give them, food and shelter and everything that's, need to be there. And even enough money to go on vacation and have fun. Yeah. But you guys choose to grind things out, and you guys choose to continue to develop stronger grit to prepare yourself for the next level kind of thing. So how do you develop grit? Let's talk in terms of maybe a younger version of yourself. If you could talk to yourself 20 years ago, what would you tell yourself to do to develop that grit faster?
Don't be stupid.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be an asshole would be mine for one. That would probably be where I'd start with. Stop being an asshole. I would start with you're not too old. Do it. That was, if I had to say anything to myself, dude, you're not too old. Screw him. Do it. And that would be about hockey. If it was anything, I would have loved to play at a higher level. But I was told it's too old. So I didn't do it. I think I was 17 at the time. Hadn't really played much, but my brother had played since he was 4. And I was like, dude, I want to do this. I'd be a killer goalie, and dabbled a lot. Played, and I ran a lot of stuff and did scoring and coaching with some of the little league stuff on the weekends. And got to play with some high level guys on practice days and stuff with ECHL. But I just never played because I was told I was too old. And I think right there is don't let, and this is kind of different, I guess, but go through it, man. Don't be scared to just go out on your own and prove people wrong. Go through the grit. Don't be afraid of the grit. Shit's going to happen whether you're looking for it or not. And oftentimes it happens when you're not looking for it. But don't be afraid to put yourself in difficult situations because you're afraid to fail. It's okay to fail. That's where school sucks, because school teaches you that failure is bad. It is in school, but that does not apply to life. That is one, being a gamer myself and growing up in that mindset is in my household. We were all gamers in my household. Video games taught me that failure was okay. It's just not the way to do it. No one really thinks about video games that way, but I played at a higher level competitively. I didn't just play because I wanted to escape my life. I played because I loved the competitive sense of it. Video games just teach you that you died, you lost. That's not the way to do it. So you got to figure out a different way. So it makes your mind think differently. Where school teaches you failed, you got to do it all. It's not that you got to do it all over again. It's don't do it. It's still kind of don't do it that way, but it's bad, and everyone looks at you and downs
you. Get labeled.
Yeah, you're labeled. You're a failure now, right? So you had to do the grade all over again. You're a failure, dude. Screw you, man. Watch me drop out, get my GED, and still smoke you in real life. And I graduated or whatever, but I have the utmost respect for people who did go through that route and did get their GED and are smoking a lot of us in real life, quote unquote, now, because they own their own businesses and didn't let people label them, dude. Being labeled is part of the grit too, and I said that in mindset. I talked about, dude, who gives a damn what people say about you, dude? They suck probably just as much as you do, just in something else.
Right.
That's all it is. I mean, everybody's bad at something. It's just, are you okay with that? Or you want to go through what it takes to better yourself in that arena? That's all it is.
You're asking, how did we develop grit? And the first thing that comes to my mind is, I don't know. How did I develop that? Like, how did that become a part of my mindset? And I mean, really, I just think about, there was examples, and I just saw it. Like, I saw it lived out. And I could talk about my dad, which was probably the first, person, obviously the first man that I saw have that mentality. I saw him grit things out. I saw him grit things out in relationships and business and just in life in general, different stuff. And I saw him never really, maybe it affected him, but he never showed that to me, or anybody else. And then I was, been privileged to be around other people through business and through church and other things like that are the same. They're just examples. Like, I know they went through struggles, like, because I heard it from other people, but I never heard it from them, or I heard it way after the victory, like what we were just talking about, with our situations when we were younger and made some dumb decisions, then we ground our way out of it. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about it when it was going on, but way after the victory, they talked about it, or somebody else told the story. And I think that just helped me go, like, I'd rather do that. Like, if I'm gonna have shit coming to my life, I'd rather develop some kind of grit to get through it. And I know it's possible to have the grit to get through it because I saw the example, which again, goes back to the whole purpose of us being here, is hopefully this is, helping some men out there go, I'd rather be like that. I'd rather not move back in with my mom. I'd rather not curl up in a puddle of my own piss. I'd rather I mean, seriously, like, but there's just there is a society as a whole, which is why we all feel passionate about this whole project. Is there's this mentality that it's okay to not have grit. It's okay to just be like, maybe somebody else will take care of me or whatever. That's just not true, man. It's not true and it's not fair. So it's not fair to you and it's not fair to the next generation that's looking at you.
That's awesome. I would say take personal responsibility sooner. Like what you were saying, like you think somebody else is going to take care of you. I literally thought that my grandfather, he's wealthy, whatever, I'll get his wealth and all that kind of stuff, is everything's going to be fine. And that's not the case. And it did build a mentality of like, if anything does hit the fan, it's all good. And I think that other people out there should start developing a grit, like I want to win and not lose, not quit when it gets hard, and actually push through and see what you can become, see what's inside you. And you're not going to get that just by everything going smooth and you're not getting hit by anything. You have to I want you to get hit in the face and then get back up and go, let me have another, and
this time put a little stank on it.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said to that. Cause if struggle doesn't come to your way, and like, let's say you're born with a silver spoon financially and you never experienced financial struggles, you're not going to relate to people who come from nothing to something. Now, great, I'm glad you're in that position, but the fact of the matter is you don't really know what you're capable of until you get to that point and then make it. Same thing as a wrestler who's succeeded and you've never wrestled. I don't know what I have what I can do until I get on the mat. And then you get pinned a couple times, you get a little pissed off, you get a little bit of manly juice going on in you, going, I want to win. I want to beat your ass.
I'm still talking about manly juice
in
me while I was wrestling.
Not while I was wrestling.
I was thinking testosterone.
Wrestling my wife.
Not like that.
Testosterone.
See guys,
Testosterone.
Yeah.
Testosterone, manly
Same page
juice,
now.
the manly. Okay.
Woo.
Well, anyway, wrong juice.
Lord.
Yeah. But you get like you confront a challenge and you're like, I got this. I'm going to beat you. And having that just winning mentality, I think it's just the winning mentality. And if you're not going out there to go win at something, find something you can win at. And don't, try to do it in life skills. But if you got to get on a recreation team playing softball or whatever, great. But you're not really moving your family forward if you do. You're wasting a bunch of time. So instead of doing that, go find a book that's going to stretch you. Go do something for someone else that's going to stretch you. Get that grittiness on you, and then go find somebody who is winning that you respect and you admire, and get around them and go, hey man, can I just get in the car with you? Let me learn from you. I know you're kicking ass at this particular deal, and I want to grow. And if you're out there in a business and you're doing something, let's say real estate, get around somebody who's doing some killer stuff with real estate, and they're going to teach you some things. Just the same stuff that we're talking, that everything that we're talking about can apply to any person in any walk of life. You just got to take the good stuff that you hear and open your ears and listen and digest it and apply it. And if you're not applying it, that's where you're going wrong. And that's where I would tell myself back in the day is like, dude, get around these people, learn from them and their mistakes so that you don't repeat those stupid mistakes and have a 10 times better lifestyle than you would have right now. Yep. I could have what I have right now at 25, but yet I had to grind for 10 years to get out of the stupid stuff that I did at 21.
Yeah. Dude, and a huge misconception out there is experience is the best teacher. Dude, someone else's experience is the best teacher.
That's wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I was going to say is if you're living a life of comfort and you're not, and I don't mean like if you're living a lavish lifestyle, okay? If you are comfortable in your life and you are denying yourself the situations that would stretch you or discomfort you, shame on you. If you're not doing things to constantly stretch yourself, to let yourself grow, shame on you. Man, get out there and experience new things. Like you talked about, dude, find a book that's going to stretch you a little bit. Relentless definitely stretched my mindset by a lot.
Yeah.
Because it talks about the capacity that, you have these, because Tim Grover talks about these basketball players coming in who are already on top of their game, and he goes, you don't know shit. Watch this, right. And you got these guys that are on top of these guys are supposed to be on top of their games. They're smoking everybody else on the court, typically, and he's stretching them. You're like, if those guys have got more on the table, then I sure as hell have got more on the table. I'm not a professional athlete by any means, but I'm a professional at what I do, I think. And a lot of the same principles apply in the business realm that they do. And success principles apply everywhere.
Right.
But if they applied in that sport and he was able to apply those players, dude, I just applied in my life, and man, it was and I'm not even touching the highest level he is. I give myself breaks. There's no breaks in that arena.
No.
Tim Grover don't give you no breaks. He'll let you throw up, pass out, then wait till you wake up in the cold in the court and be like, "You ready to go again? You ready to finish?"
You throw some water on it.
Yeah,
Wake
splash.
And that's that whole environment is something I wanted to mention. Is Chris, you said it about something about playing a sport or whatever. I'm reading a book right now, and he talks about raising young men and how important it is for them to be in some kind of athletics. It doesn't mean that you're going to go pro necessarily or whatever, but you're asking, how do you develop grit? You got to learn how to fail young. You got to fail young, man. You need to get some losses under your belt, whether that be in a team sport, basketball, football, baseball, whatever, or being wrestling, it doesn't matter. Anything that's going to stretch your capacity, and at a young age you start realizing, man, this feeling sucks. But my dad's not going to let me quit. So I'm going to have to develop some grit to get through it. Mm-hmm. When I played sports, I wanted to play, but there was times when I wanted to quit. Honestly, I hate to even admit that, but there was times I wanted to quit, but that wasn't an option. Like, you don't quit when, you just don't. You just don't. And we have that with our oldest. He plays basketball, and there's been times where I know in his mind he's felt like, I don't want to do this anymore. But that's just not an option at our house. And he might not appreciate that right now, but when he's older, he's going to have grit because of what he's experienced through that process.
Absolutely.
Yep. No, I agree. And kind of what you're talking about with the silver spoon in their mouth and stuff. I've always looked at stuff like that, and people that complain about, oh, well, I didn't have the advantages that they did. No, screw you. You had more advantages. Mm-hmm. You built a solid foundation by grinding through the bullshit that you had to grind through, so that when the earthquake does hit, because it will hit.
Mm-hmm. When the big bad wolf comes.
Yep. Your foundation is strong because you spent so much time down there in the basement. That guy that had the silver spoon was born on the 56th floor. So when the earthquake hits, his foundation is not as solid, and he falls back, whereas you stay solid. So,
they hit harder.
Yeah.
You see that. You see these successful kids, they when they hit something so hard, dude, it takes them you hardly don't. It'll break them, or they have to build it up again too, and that's very challenging.
You said something, I think, in the mindset episode about you love watching your kids fail, and you're talking about watching them, how they react to failure.
Yeah.
Not, I love seeing my kids lose. It's not about that. It's how they react and how you can coach them up on that.
I kicked my kids over a lot when they started walking. A lot. I'm
Truly,
serious. That's real life. I push them. Some over.
People are going, what?
Every chance I get. Hey, if you're judging me, then
throw them through a glass window or anything. Just kind of trip them up.
I'm just talking about pushing them over with my foot when they start walking.
Yeah.
Watch out in nature. Lions and tigers, and they do that to their cubs. Like, bam. Smack them in the face.
Yeah, but you got 45 minutes in that realm. You better figure out how to stay on your feet.
Right.
You finna get eaten.
Or you get
That's true.
Yeah. So I have I had a couple things that I thought about, and I wanted to relate it back to what you would tell yourself when you were younger, because it's advice that I would give to somebody that maybe isn't at the level of grit or gritty as you are, or whatever it may be. So I like to reflect back on what I would tell a younger version of me. So one of the things that I was find something that you are truly passionate and interested in. It's a good area to develop the grit, because the passion, and somebody said vision earlier. I think it might have been you, Cam. It said something about vision. When you grind, but you have an idea and you have a vision, you've crystallized what you want to get to. That grind isn't as bad. You tend to dig a little bit harder, So find something that you're passionate about, and you can develop grit there. Now, there's going to be times where you have to be gritty for something that you may not be passionate about. It may just be something you got to freaking do, But if you can start to develop that trait of grittiness by doing that, make a goal to get better every single day. Grind every single day. One more. That one more mentality. Tell yourself that. One more. Can I do one more page? I want to stop right. One more page. Then read that one more page. It's a win, right? Or whatever it may be. And surround yourself by people that are gritty and don't complain. I didn't surround myself by the best people growing up. I just didn't. And most kids, you made that comment, Wilson, Mom said, if you hang around with fleas, you get fleas. I don't know if that's right or not, but it makes sense. You're going to get fleas if you're around fleas. I get it. But that negative mindset is a cancer, and stuff like that. People that are lazy, it's a cancer. You'll find yourself sitting on the couch more than you should when you're around people like that. So get around gritty people that don't complain. And it's going to stretch you, because those people the people you want to be around all the time because it stretches you to do better. It stretches you to grind. And do the work. When the work's in front of you, do it. Don't go around it. Do it. I heard a really, really cool story about Theodore Roosevelt and his family growing up. And his family was all about taking the hard route. Because if you take the easy route, you lose. Like you lose an opportunity to get better. So when they would go hiking or camping or whatever it may be, when they would encounter a lake or a boulder or something like that, you were not allowed to go around it. You had to go through it or over it. You had to figure it out. And it was the small things like that that started to develop that gritty mindset. Like, shit, there's a lake. There's a mile swim to get across it. But it starts to develop a different mindset because now every task in life, you start to look at it in a different perspective. Like you said, Cam, it changes your perspective on things. And one of the biggest things is stop feeling sorry for yourself. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear a pity trip. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. That goes back to taking ownership in your life and stuff like that. But stop having pity on yourself. Like just freaking quit.
It's fixed mindset.
Oh,
yeah, that's absolutely fixed mindset. Poor pitiful me. I cannot. That is the most. I can't stand that.
There's people in third world countries that have it worse off than you do. That's listening, and they have a smile on their face. They're happy.
They have positive expectations,
and they have very big positive expectations.
So, any more thoughts from you guys before I close?
No, that's it. It's solid.
So, as a man, grit is something that you need to embrace if you're ever going to lead a successful life. Go to bed tired. Stay hungry. Challenge yourself every single day. Look the devil in the face and say, bring it the fuck on. And remember, one more, baby, because a great man once said, pity is given, but jealousy is earned. Success is rare, baby. Grit it out and take your place on top. It was great being with you guys this evening. You guys follow us on all our social media platforms. You can find us everywhere. Our website is shepherdsof.men. Go check it out. Guys, if you ever have any questions about anything that we talked about, or you want to talk about something in detail, or you want to have a recommendation for a book that could take you to the next level about what we're talking about, reach out, ask the questions. These guys are a wealth of knowledge from that perspective. Guys, go out there, kick ass. You've been part of the movement.